Welcome back to the channel. I'm Private Pepito, and today we're going to be talking about the M1 Garand made by DENIX. Before I continue with the review, let's go over about what DENIX is. DENIX is a company based out in Spain. They create non-firing replicas of real-world firearms. Reenactors typically fall back to DENIX if they aren't able to purchase a real firearm at that time. These replicas are made of real metal, zinc, and real wood. Their scales are 1:1, and the weight of their replicas are about the same as their counterparts. Though the prices are relatively high, they are much cheaper than a real weapon. Now on with the review. A couple things to mention before we start with this review. My DENIX has been modified. The color is quite different from how they originally came. And I've also modified the bayonet lug here to adapt to a bayonet. Real DENIX weapons or replicas or the actual color would have been a lot lighter, and the bayonet lug should not have been able to take a bayonet, so I bypassed it by filing it down, which I will go over the mods that I've done after the review of the weapon itself. Here we have the DENIX M1 Garand all laid out in all of its beauty. Now, first thing I want to mention, yes, this is all real wood and all metal. None of it is steel, except for the screws. I'm pretty sure some of them are steel. But overall, I'm just going to get this started. This isn't made to last 80 years like the real counterpart. Not at all. In fact, you do have to be kind of careful when using this replica because it could potentially break on you. Right off the bat, I'm going to get into the cons of this weapon, and then we'll get into the pros. Alright, so the first cons would be the screw placements. There's a lot of screws, for example, right here, in places that they should not be. One here, let's see, one right there, and two down there. The real life counterpart, there are no screws there. That's one of the cons. Another con is most people actually, when they get their replicas, their barrel is bent, and I'll take this apart so you guys can see how it would have been bent, and so you guys can get a general idea of how to take it apart in the first place, so you can get an idea of the mechanics and everything. But yeah, that is definitely a con. Some people receive the barrel bent. And one little hint, all you gotta do is tighten that screw right there, and like mine, it aligned back. But we'll get into that, why it does that. This does not come with the sling, by the way. This is a separate purchase. This will eventually be taken off later on in the video when I get to the dismantling part. Some other cons, the color. The color of this is not right. As you can see right here, and it peeks out occasionally. It shouldn't be that color. Let's just say that. I actually used shoe polish to make mine darker. I'm going to eventually sand that down and use actual rifle stain in the near future, and I'll make a video on that whenever I do. But the color is also off. It's more of like a reddish orange. It's kind of like the color of the side of the sling here. Kind of like that. Very, very off from the color of the M1 Garands. The safety here doesn't work. As you can see, it's molded into the metal. Doesn't function. The sights do not turn. They're not lock bar, by the way. I'm glad that they got the right type of trigger guard here. This is the mill trigger guard. This is the right kind for World War II. And as you can see, this doesn't open to where you can access your cleaning kit. So those are pretty much the cons of the M1 Garand. Now let's get into the pros. Now I think the most major pro when it comes to this replica is the price. I got around $240-ish, around somewhere around there for this replica, and that's cheap compared to an original, not even from World War II, but M1 Garand in general, which is going to put you around 38,000. No, I don't think 38. No, that's much cheaper than that. I don't know what I'm thinking. But yeah, this is definitely a cheap alternative. And B-Fongs are almost just as expensive as real firearms. So it's definitely a pro. It's made out of real wood and real metal. There are some replicas out there made out of resin, and I do not recommend those. Those are very farb, which is, it's hard to explain what farb is. Pretty much non-historical items for those that do not know what farb is. A couple more pros. It's got a working bolt here. It does not lock back. If you tighten this screw right here, it allows you to where it stays back, but as you saw, it was really hard for me to open. It's got a working bolt. As you can see, you cannot put a clip in there, and it cannot be chambered. A bullet will not go in there. It's got a nice sound to it. And your trigger works, and if you pay attention here, it actually can dry fire. So that's definitely a pro. It's really cool to show off to the public. The public doesn't really know the difference between a DENIX and a real M1 anyway, so it's nice to have one of these suckers for displays and just for carrying around if you don't have an actual M1. Alright, now I'm going to get into the dismantling portion of this video. I'm not going to dismantle it on video. I'm just going to do it, and then I'll show you guys after I'm done and go over the parts and everything. Alright, as you can see, I have the DENIX replica disassembled. In certain areas I cannot get it, or I'm afraid that it would break. You can unscrew this, but you'd have to take off this little strip of metal here in order to access it. And there's also a screw down, I think it's right next to this one, that I cannot access in order to take out the whole entire barrel. Now, this is what I was talking about during the con session. As you can see, this is not a complete barrel. This doesn't match up with that. In fact, it's not even a complete gas cylinder. And what you find, people running problems, because it's not attached at the top, people often find their barrels dipping, just like that. And so whenever you see the whole replica laid out, it looks like it's falling this way. And if you ever watch any other reviews, which there are very little out there, you can see that in certain people's replicas of the barrel dipping down. And another problem is right here, as you can see, this isn't very straight either, so that doesn't really add to it. Like I said, these things were not made to last for 80 plus years. Right here, here's our trigger grouping. As you can see, this is how the mechanic works. It's actually somewhat similar to the real counterpart. As you can see, that's how that works. And whenever you ride it back, it puts it back on the trigger. So it's pretty much like the real life counterpart, minus the safety mechanism, and that this isn't an actual whatever you call it. As you can see here, yes, you can take up the upper part of it, but I can't because I'm too afraid of risking breaking it. You can also take off the butt plate, but that thing takes forever to get off, so I'm not even going to bother with it. But as you can see, this is how most of this stuff works here, and how you can mostly take it apart without being afraid of breaking it. Yeah, so That's it dismantled. I really wish I could get it to where you guys could see how this works, because it's actually pretty neat. I mean, you can kind of see there's a spring in there. But I wish I could take it out for you guys. But there's a screw down there somewhere that's preventing me from showing you guys, so I can't really do that. As you can see, these are the poorly placed screws here. You can take this off too, by the way. But yeah, that's how it's all breaks down pretty much without breaking it. I know some people are able to get to this, but I was not. So I thought about it. I took a couple pictures of the type of screwdriver you need, and I'll put those in before you even watch this part, so you would have already watched it by the time we got to here. But this is the disassembled DENIX replica. One thing I really quick wanted to mention is if you are able to file down the lug here, you will be able to fit a bayonet in there and have it lock, but it requires a lot of filing, and it takes a long freaking time. Like, it took me a day just to be able to lock it on there. So, and it doesn't even go all the way, but you can't have it that go and be flush. But I wasn't gonna file for another 12 hours just to make it sit snugly, so that's as good as I'm gonna get. But it does, if you file it down, you are able to actually stick a real bayonet on there and have it lock. So that was a modification I did after I did the coloring. Now, my overall opinion on this replica is that it is great. It is great for reenacting, it is great for collectors, it is great for living history, and I do really recommend it if you are not able to purchase an actual Garand, because it has definitely saved my butt from different events, and I didn't really want to be a medic, so yeah, this is a great, amazing alternative, and you can definitely modify it. Like, I know that there's a website that sells lock bars for this. You can put some like epoxy there, seal it off, sand it, and repaint it with gun blue, or just paint mixed with gun blue, and you can completely redo that. I know you can hide that screw that's up here. You can completely redo the stock. You can put a real M1 Garand stock on there. I've seen some guys do that. So there's definitely a lot of advantages to owning one of these, because you can completely mod it out to make it look pretty much like you can't tell the difference between an actual M1 Garand and this one. The reason why I made this review, though, is because whenever I went to go and buy mine, I wanted to look at a lot of references, because I wanted to know what I was getting myself into. And there wasn't a lot of good videos or good reviews up on YouTube. And so I decided that I might as well put one out there for people that are looking just like I did. So I hope you guys found this review pretty helpful. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I hope that you guys learned something about DENIX's replicas, and I hope that this is helpful for you when it comes to making your decision of purchasing these. I know sometimes it's not easy because we get misled from other reviews, but I hope that this one helped a lot. I know the quality of different DENIXs that you're going to get varies, but pretty much what I kind of lucked out when I got mine. So I hope that you guys get a good one too, and I hope that this review helped you with your decision, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful day.